What is the difference between milk powder and dairy whitener? Today we are going to discuss the difference between milk powder and dairy whitener, their uses, and the difference between spray drying, drum drying, and freeze drying, which converts milk to milk powder. So, welcome to the session Milk Powder versus Dairy Whitener, the differences between them in terms of nutrition, content, usage, and how milk powder is made, spray drying, drum drying, and freeze drying. What would be the difference among these three methods? Milk powder versus dairy whitener. So, milk powder is pure milk solids. Pure milk solids, it is the solid form as fine powder. It is obtained by complete dehydration, means completely removing the entire water content of cow or buffalo milk. Thus, it is pure pasteurized milk minus water. Milk from cow or buffalo is pasteurized and then all the water content is removed dehydration process, except that there is no other processing. So pure milk minus water in the form of fine powder is milk powder. Dairy whitener is processed. That means not only pasteurizing and dehydration, there are some extra processings. So processed mixture, it contains milk solids but also contains certain additives. The additives which are not found in milk powder, they contain certain additives and they occur as fine soluble powder. They are used for tea and coffee. Dairy whitener packets, we use them for tea and coffee. But the extra additives you find in dairy whitener will not be found in milk powder. Milk powder is pure milk minus water and dairy whitener is milk powder plus certain additives in the form of soluble powder. Milk powder is 100% pure milk. All you have done is remove the water. The only one thing you have done after pasteurizing is removing the water. So it is 100% pure milk and it is obtained by a process called spray drying cow or buffalo milk. Now, how it is spray dried, we will discuss this later, the exact process of spray drying. So, cow and buffalo milk, spray dried, that is removal of water. So, 100% pure milk solids, milk minus water, that is milk powder. Dairy whitener is a processed mixture which contains extra additives, that is small amount of sugar plus stabilizers and other additives. These three things will be there: a small amount of sugar plus some stabilizers and other additives. When they are added, then they become dairy whitener. So dairy whitener is milk solids like milk powder, but also contains extra things like sugar, stabilizers and other additives, whereas milk powder is only milk. Milk powder has a taste closer to natural milk. Milk powder, the taste and the texture will be closer to natural milk and is used as milk substitute. Whenever you need milk, in that place you can use milk powder, such as for drinking, cooking and baking. Special milk powder also used for infant feed. Dairy whitener is slightly sweeter because you have added sugar and creamier. It is often used for tea and coffee only. It is not recommended as infant feed. So milk powder you can use wherever you use milk, such as for cooking or baking, and even specially formulated milk powder as infant feed, whereas dairy whitener is used only for tea and coffee. It's not recommended as a milk substitute. It is not recommended as infant feed, or it cannot be used in places requiring pure milk. So only it is used for tea and coffee. So that is the milk powder and milk dairy whitener, and the taste is closer to natural milk if you use milk powder, but If you use dairy whitener, the taste will be sweeter and creamier. The use is milk powder wherever you need milk, dairy whitener for tea and coffee only, and definitely dairy whitener is not for infant feed. Now, milk powder has no added sugar except when the packet is labeled sweetened, sweetened condensed milk. So unless it is labeled as sweetened, it contains no added sugar. So it would have a glycemic index similar to natural milk. It has higher protein content. Only the original lactose content is preserved, no extra sugar. Dairy whitener has added sugar. Sugar is added. So it is sweeter with higher sugar content, higher glycemic index, and lower protein content. So milk powder has no added sugar, only the original lactose content will be there. So glycemic index similar to natural milk, slightly higher protein content. Dairy whitener has some added sugar, higher glycemic index, sweeter, and lower protein content. That is from the point of view of nutrition, the comparison between milk powder and dairy whitener. Now the texture and solubility. Milk powder, a fine and light texture. Milk powder will have a fine and light texture. It dissolves slowly to give real milk. Milk powder has a very fine and light texture. It dissolves slowly to give real milk. Hastily pouring hot water without stirring may result in clumps. More expensive. Dairy whitener has a creamier and smoother texture, not fine and light, but creamier and smoother texture. It dissolves more easily in hot water. Compared to milk powder, it is easier to dissolve a dairy whitener. It is less likely to form clumps. It is generally cheaper than milk powder. So the texture, milk powder, fine and light, dairy whitener, creamier and smoother. Solubility, milk powder, it's a bit problem sometimes dissolving it, whereas dairy whitener is comparatively easy to dissolve in water, less likely to form clumps, and milk powder is expensive, whereas dairy whitener is generally cheaper. And in fact, low cost and better solubility, these two are the main reasons why we prefer dairy whitener for tea and coffee and not milk powder. The reason why people prefer dairy whitener for tea and coffee is the not only the cost, but also that it is easily soluble, more easily soluble, better soluble, and less likely to form clumps. So that is the point. We were discussing why many people use dairy whitener, although it contains extra sugar, additives, preservatives, and it's not pure content, lower protein content. The two main reasons: low cost, but even more important point, better solubility, more easily soluble and less likely to form clumps. Now we will discuss how condensed milk is spray dried. We were telling you about spray drying of liquid milk to milk powder. So the process we have shown by a diagram how it is done. But first we will understand what is meant by counter current principle. Counter current principle means the milk droplets coming down and hot dry air going up. They are moving in opposite direction. They will be moving in opposite direction, one coming down, one going up. This is called the counter current principle. So milk is first preheated and concentrated to remove water. Not the entire water content, but most of the water or a large quantity of water will be removed. Then you will get concentrated milk. Then it is sprayed into large chamber. You can see the large chamber. It is sprayed into a large chamber as fine mist through nozzles or atomizers, through very fine narrow nozzles or atomizers under high pressure. You are getting a mist that is very fine droplets. Hot dry air 150 to 200 degrees Celsius is blown into the chamber and air is going up and the milk droplets coming down. As tiny milk droplets fall, they meet the rising current of hot air. The milk droplets are falling, they come in contact with the rising hot and dry air. They dry instantly and turn into fine powder, and the powder you can collect from the bottom of the chamber. So through a nozzle, you can see in the diagram, we are introducing the condensed milk as very fine droplets, and from the bottom, hot dry air. So air is going up, milk droplets coming down, they dry instantly, and the fine powder can be collected at the bottom of the chamber. This is the process of spray drying. Now, converting milk to milk powder, in addition to spray drying using hot air, there are two other methods we have shown, that is drum drying and freeze drying. Drum drying is shown on the right and freeze drying is shown on the left. So although dehydrating is most commonly done using hot and dry stream of air, especially in large scale production of milk powder, we have got two other processes, drum drying and freeze drying. Both these are illustrated. However, spray drying using dry hot air is preferred because it is fast, prevents spoilage, and retains natural nutrients and flavor. So although spray drying is preferred, the two other processes of converting milk to milk powder, the two processes are shown. One is drum drying and one is freeze drying. So that was the difference between milk whitener, dairy whitener and milk powder. But whatever you use, coffee is the essence of life. We need milk, and milk powder is a bit difficult to dissolve sometimes. So we use dairy whitener for tea and coffee, but for all other purposes, you must use milk powder. But whatever you use, coffee is essential. Without coffee, there can be no happy life.